Okay, hi everyone. My name is Maciej Palmowski. I'm a WordPress developer from Poland. And I will talk you about creating Gutenberg blocks. Some of you probably were at the previous presentation by Magda Paciorek. She showed you how to create blocks using the React way. I will mostly concentrate on the other approach with using advanced custom fields blocks. So, first of all, how many of you use Gutenberg like every day? Okay. And how many of you just hate Gutenberg and doesn't want to use it at any time? Okay, just one. So it's much better because I'm giving this talk for some time, and I remember that during my first talks, the proportion was quite different. There were lots of haters, and now it's just you. Sorry, but still, Gutenberg is still to stay. It's, as you probably know, it's the editor that took place of TinyMCA. And what's most important, it totally changed the way how we either create the blocks in the admin panel, because now we have to learn React. And on the other hand, it totally changed the way how we create content, because when there was only TinyMCA, we just have this one text area where we can put all the content, and now we can construct it out of blocks. So it's totally different. We can change order. Okay. But is creating Gutenberg blocks simple? I mean, like those using the React. Magda showed us this, but I will show you a bit different way with a bit different approach, and as I am more of the ACF advocate, I look at it a bit differently. So we will use create Gutenblock. This is a library that also Magda mentioned. Based on what the author wrote about it, thanks to this, we should be able to create a block without any additional configuration, like just in minutes. So okay, let's try it. The installation is really simple. We just go with those 3 steps. We run npx create Gutenblock, we insert our block name, then we go into this directory, run npm start, and we have everything, as you see, all the PHP files, or all the JavaScript and CSS files, just everything. We are just 2 steps to go until we can create a full Gutenberg block. First step is learning React. Also, let's come back to Magda's presentation. She said it. She needed 2 or 3 months to feel really comfortable of using React. So if you work at the agency that wants to start using Gutenberg, maybe not from day to day, but in a short amount of time, you may have some problems, because you may not have those months' time to learn some new language. But after this time, when you learn it, then it's quite easy. You just use JavaScript, use React, and create blocks. For example, this is from this create Gutenberg. This is something like Hello World. It doesn't look simple. For me, okay, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of JavaScript and React, but if this is something that should be more or less Hello World, it doesn't look friendly to me. I didn't like it. But still, if you want to use Gutenberg as developers, you should really learn it. Sorry. Why? First of all, if you want to use Gutenberg's full potential, this is the only way, learning React. Because if you know, did someone use AMP plugin from Automatic? There is, it's really using Gutenberg potential. You can create AMP stories in it. On the other hand, if you watched Matt's keynote, it was also created in Gutenberg. Like, there is no limits what you can create, only just your imagination. So after really spent those months, learned React at the end, because it may be very useful. And what's also important, when you will learn React, you won't be dependent on any libraries, any plugins. You can be sure that your code will work. But it's not necessary if you don't have this time. Because, like I said, with React, you can create magic, like everything. But on daily basis, and I'm talking from my experience, most things I need is just a block in which I can input some data, which would later show it on the front end. That's all, without any magic. So, and probably most of you have the same experience. So maybe try using plugins or libraries like here. It's Advanced Custom Fields Blocks, you have Carbon Fields, Lazy Blocks, or Blocks Lab. They will help you to not... you won't need those months to learn React. You can jump into Gutenberg in weeks or even days. It's really simple. Personally, I'm a big fan of Advanced Custom Fields Blocks, and I will show you later how to create block using this plugin. So, what are the possibilities? First of all, if you are using Advanced Custom Fields, it's just the same, but within the block. So you will have to create some inputs, and they will show in the block. What is new, you will have the possibility of real-time preview of each block. And this is one of the greatest features of Gutenberg itself, because your clients won't have to look at the page preview. They can just see the block preview in real time. Every time we use it for our clients, we see that they don't ask any questions. They just test, they see how something works, and it's terrific. So if you have problem with clients that are asking too many questions about how should I fill this field or what should I do, try Gutenberg. It may solve your problems. But there are some cons. First of all, like I said, you can do anything in Gutenberg. With ACF, you are very limited in terms of user interface. You just have these inputs, and that's all. You can't use any context menus or sidebars or anything else they will invent in some time. So if you need a block with a very complicated user interface, Advanced Custom Fields is not for you. Also, not all Gutenberg features will be available in Advanced Custom Fields. For example, nested blocks. It just doesn't work, and it probably won't. Also, the thing that is really worth remembering is the fact that Gutenberg is evolving really, really fast. In each version, there are some new features. Everything is changing. And all those plugins with Advanced Custom Fields 2 will always be one step behind, or even more if they stop to be updated at some point. And the last thing, probably some of you don't have the Advanced Custom Field Pro version, and if you don't have it, you don't have Advanced Custom Fields Blocks. It's only available in the Pro version, so you have to pay real money. But again, based from my experience, it's the best spent money I ever spent, so it's worth it's really worth spending it on this plugin. But enough of theory. Let's go into real block making. We will construct something like this. As you see, you have a list of trips where you can go. In each block, you can enter a city name, some description, price, and set a background image. It's enough for a start, so let's go. First of all, we have to use action called ACF Init. And we have to connect some function that will register a block. In our case, it's my ACF Init. Then, using the ACF register block type function, we just have to pass some parameters like name, title, description. They are quite self-explanatory, so I don't have to say anything more. Render callback. This is quite important. This is the function that will render this block itself, so this is really important. And the category, icon, and keywords, also kind of self-explanatory. There are more options. You can see them all on the Advanced Custom Fields documentation page, so go there if you're interested in it. And now let's go to this callback function. I'm using Timber here. Timber is a WordPress implementation for Twig. It's a template engine for PHP. So in our case, first we will gather all the data into the context. Timber get context gets us all the data about our website, all the blog info and so. Next, we'll set the block. The block contains information about the block itself, like its ID, class, and so on. Into fields, we'll get, using getFields function, we'll get all the data we entered with ACF. And the last thing, and this is a really important thing, is preview, because sometimes we want to show our block a bit differently in the front end and in the admin panel. This is either true or false. And having all this data, we just pass it to our HTML. The next step is, if you use Advanced Custom Fields, you really know this view. The only difference is at the bottom. At the location, you can see, okay, here we must set block is equal to trips, because that's how we called our block before. And we have something like this. If you still remember the screenshot I shown you some slides ago, it doesn't look anyway near as it should. But we will fix it. Why doesn't it work? First of all, we forgot about scripts and styles. So it will be the first thing that we will fix. Using the enqueue style and enqueue script, we are just enqueuing our style and script to the block editor. We use the action enqueue block editor assets. Thanks to this, those styles will be enqueued only in the admin panel, only in the Gutenberg editor. It's important. They won't be used on the front end. There is also another way. When you are registering the ACF register block type, you can also use those two parameters, enqueue style and enqueue scripts. Some of you may ask, which should I use in which case? If you use one file for styles and one file for JavaScripts for all the blocks, you should probably use the method I shown slide ago, because it's easier. If you have separate styles and scripts for each block, it will be probably easier for you to use this one, but it's up to you. It doesn't matter, they both work. There are also some things you should remember, because Gutenberg is a bit different than TinyMCA. And the first thing is TinyMCA was using an iframe. So when we enqueued a style, we didn't have to worry that it will affect some other sections of our admin panel. When I first enqueued my front-end style into the admin panel, it was a one big tragedy. Why? Because I tried to style some global elements, like, for example, HTML body or something. And we have to be careful about this. Also, it was something that we learned during some discussions with clients. It's a very good practice to make all the links in the preview non-clickable, because if user will switch to preview, he may by accident click on some link and be redirected out of the admin panel, which isn't too good for him. What is also a good practice is we wrap every block in some sort, either of div or section, and give it a separate class name. Thanks to this, we can, as you see here, we just use this class name and use our front-end CSS to import them. And thanks to this, we are sure that our CSS won't affect any other sections than the block itself. Some slides ago, we enqueued JavaScript, but it still won't work. Why? Because it won't know when to start working. They don't have. We didn't set any event that will launch when we click preview of the block. But it's quite easy to fix. There is something called window ACF at action, and the event is called render block preview. So every time when we click on the preview button in admin panel, it is launched. And here we load our Packery script that is launched every time we click on a preview. So we added the CSS, we added the JS, and in result we have this. It's working as it should. So every time we click on the preview, our script is loaded, our CSS is loaded, everything is great. Also, it has two modes. As you can see, it's grid and full vignette. And when we change it, it changes too. So everything is okay. The two things that you really need to remember using advanced custom fields blocks is first that this is just a plugin, and on the other hand, Gutenberg is developing, like I said, really fast. So there may be conflicts. You have to be ready for this. Even if Elliot, the developer of advanced custom fields, will be using all the time he has, he will be still one step behind Gutenberg. So this is something we have to accept when we are using such plugins like this. And the thing about the interface. In many cases, this is very important, and this will be something that is also not possible to change. It's just the way ACF works, and we'll have to accept it. But there is one more thing. The part when I showed you we have to register the block and add those parameters, and imagine if you have many many blocks like this, you have to repeat it time after time. It's boring, isn't it? I wouldn't like to do it. It's myself too. So that's why I thought about a small plugin, or maybe a library, because it's not the plugin itself. It's called Timber ACF WP Blocks. And let me show you, maybe it will be kind of easier. We don't have to add this code in functions. We just have to add the comment on the top of the block. You can, of course, not only use title, description, category, and what is written here, but also other parameters that can be used. And when you do this, you just write your own block. And that's all. This block will be working. You just have to use Timber. If you want to read more about it, there is a repository on GitHub. And if you don't use Timber, there is also a version for Sage, if you are a Blade fan. Or there is also a pure PHP version made by Kuba Mikita. So I recommend you to use it because it's much easier and you don't have to write all this boring code time after time. And that's all. Do you have any questions?
You were a bit faster than I expected.
Yes.
So I have one. In case somebody does not know what is Sage or Timber, if you could.
Okay, so
give a quick
once
explanation.
again, Timber it's an implementation of Twig. Twig is a PHP templating engine, especially for WordPress. There is also something called Spring. It's a much lighter version, but they are quite the same. And Sage is more of the starter theme made by Roots.io. It's based, if you use it, you can really see that the authors of it really like Laravel, and they also use Blade. And so if some of you really love Laravel, Sage is something you will love too.
Also, thank you to you and Magdalena for sort of contrasting views to Gutenberg. I think it's really good to hear both sides. Let's call it. So, because of that, I want to ask you similar questions as I asked Magdalena. What was your time curve in learning how to deal with this?
Using ACF Blocks.
Yes.
20 minutes?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes, this is the main reason why it's a good solution, like for agencies that doesn't have time to spend some months on learning new skills. You can start using Gutenberg, like I said. If you use ACF, it's 20 minutes and you are ready to go. And a pro license. Okay, this is one more thing. It costs more. It costs some money. But if you use ACF Pro, it's not a problem, and but this time you saved now, you should really spend on React at some point because you'll need it really.
Maybe can you give us some real-time stories with AF?
Advanced custom fields.
Thank you. I'm the user myself. It's a long day. When you hit the wall with the plugin, so some story when it was not enough for your use case.
It was the only moment when it was not enough. It was during my experiment, so it wasn't for work, because for work it was always enough. I just wanted to play with nested plugins because I saw they are ready. And they didn't work with ACF as they should. So, because constructing blocks with ACF, you have to construct the whole block, not just a small part that you will include in some other one. It is possible because I read about it that you can use nested blocks, but you have to add some extra code, and it's a bit hackish. So, but during my everyday work, advanced custom fields blocks was always enough.
My other question for Magdalena was your experience with clients, which you sort of described already, that it was overwhelmingly positive for you.
Yes, well. Yes. And we also discussed it in the foyer. And everyone was very surprised how clients love Gutenberg, because I think that in our community, some of us didn't like Gutenberg for the way it was introduced. It wasn't the best way it was done. There were many things, many developers were afraid, but especially for new users who don't care how they input the data, It was just, okay, it's an editor, okay, it's a block, it's a category. Okay, I wanted to insert a video, I see a video block, let me click on it, insert video, okay, it's working, it's terrific. So so I think that for the end users, Gutenberg is a very good solution. But of course, there are still some problems with accessibility, like I talked with Marcin here. And you said that probably there might be problems for the people with poor eyesight and something like this. Yeah. Yeah, so in my case, it's not a problem, great, but for many users, there might be some problems using it. So
I think that's quite interesting topic. Maybe would you like to elaborate more on that for us? Like what challenges Gutenberg provide? Yeah.
Because when Gutenberg was developed, there was a decision that to do it fast, just ignore everything about accessibility. And it was a bad decision because it is much more easier to do accessibility stuff during development than to try to do that after you finish your product. And that's why Gutenberg started without accessibility, and right now they're trying to fix it, and it's in progress. So that's all what I can say.
Anybody has any more questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for the talk. I have a question. I'm using the same like you, Timber with ACF.
oh, that's great to hear.
And I also tried the plugin which you mentioned, but in days back it wasn't plugin. It was just GitHub repo.
Yes, it's a library.
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
my question is any progress with inner content and ACF and blocks? Like if you want to create section with 2 columns and create block. First block will be section, and the next block will be into first column.
And this is the problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem. Yes, this is what I mentioned about the problem with nested content.
And no progress.
So yes, there is no progress. From what I know, Elliot started doing something about it, but there isn't any progress for some time. But I think it's just someone will have to create just a wrapper for ACF, because we don't need any complicated block for it. We just need a simple wrapper that will be compatible with what's inside. So I think in theory, it's not something that hard, but it turns out there might be some problems. So on the other hand, there is a block in Gutenberg called columns, which divide our content into equal columns, and it works. Also, you can enter ACF blocks inside, and it works correctly. So with nested content, there is something else. I'm not sure what is it. I didn't dig it so much, but also, like I said, I saw that there are solutions. They are a bit hackish. They are they are not universal, but they are working in some cases. So I think it will be possible at some point. So we just have to wait. This is this one thing I said, that advanced custom fields will be this one step behind. So
Yeah, okay, thank you.
More questions? Then I have probably the last one. As React is the world that you hear more and more.
yes.
And you have a more reserved position to it than Magda, if
Yes.
I got you correctly. What was your experience learning it?
To be honest, I have more of a problem with JavaScript as a whole because I remember the old times when we have to write a separate JavaScript for Internet Explorer 6 and for the rest. And so still in my head, JavaScript is this thing that for most time won't work or sometimes won't work. And it's just a thing that I have to debug and fix, and I just don't like it. But I tried learning React. And to be honest, I just don't quite like the markup of it. I also played a bit with Vue.js, and it looked more friendly to me. So, but I know that at some point I have to learn it, and because if I want to like use all the potential, it's the only way.
Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.